Hey guys, Scott here with another challenger for the Spirit Challenge, where basically we just do a bunch of 1v1s just to see if they can counterplay Spirit in a chase. That's basically it. It's not super serious or anything. I just like learning to see if there's anything that can actually be done about it, because I don't want to flex my dick. I just want to see someone counter it. I actually want to be proven wrong. That would be great. It means I'd have to stop complaining about Spirit, and I could actually play her without feeling guilty anymore. I would love that, because I fucking love playing Spirit. She's really fun to play. And I will say, Hiron, the competitive player I went against, did very well. I got a bunch of requests of people wanting to do this, like over 100, and there was no way I was going to do that. So I sort of kind of divvied them up among competitive players, because I feel like they'd have the best shot of proving this. So I wanted to go with competitive players, and this is why I chose this player. Now, the rules were a bit different in this compared to the original test that I was doing. He got to choose the map. He also gets to use whatever perks. I think except Iron Will, he said. Other than that, he can use whatever perks he wants. I'm not allowed to use any perks at all. But he said I could use some yellow add-ons. So definitely, I think a bit more of a disadvantage than the last one, but not so much that it was unfair or anything like that. He also got to choose which side of the shack he wanted to start the chase on as well. Be it the pallet or not the pallet if he had sprint burst to gain more distance because it was not facing the wall. So there were a bit more things that were a little bit more sided towards him, but I didn't really care, because to me, it's not about beating him. I just want to learn stuff. That's just like, I just want to learn stuff. So the circumstances of it didn't really matter. And I got to use some yellow add-ons, which is cool. And for the most part, he played actually very, very well. His average chase duration was 58 seconds, which is actually a lot for Spirit, especially my Spirit, which I consider myself to be pretty good at Spirit. Lasting 58 seconds against Spirit is pretty good. Now, there were certainly mitigating circumstances to a lot of these things. A lot of his chases lasted way less than that. Some of them actually lasted a little bit longer. I guess that's how averages work. The thing is, though, he used a lot of pallets, like immediately. The first thing that would happen in every one of these chases, we would start the chase at the shack. He would immediately drop the God pallet. That's the first thing he did. So he would get a bunch of free distance by nature of just having the shack God pallet. I would have to break every time with no real effort on his part. Every single chase we had started with him dropping the God pallet. And he was not shy to drop pallets. He would drop pallets extremely fast. I believe on the first match, he dropped a pallet every 12.8 seconds on average, which is an alarmingly fast rate to drop pallets. However, it does delay the shit out of me. It's why this first chase took 1.5 minutes to down him, because he used so many pallets. Now, in an average game, this will cause your entire team to lose, because no, the gens are not all going to be done, and there's nothing left on this entire side of the map. Everyone's fucked in this whole side. So in a normal game, you're completely fucked if you do this. However, when he plays in a competitive game, this might actually work, because he can rely on his teammates to do the gens in 4 minutes, because high-level DBD is stupidly survivor-sided for the most part. So he can rely on his teammates to make up for the fact that he's burning through pallets at an alarming rate. Now, a lot of the times he would do things that would work, and a lot of the times he would try the same thing, and it just would not work at all. So it really just kept feeling like a lot of 50-50 scenarios where I didn't feel super convinced he was countering me, but he said that in some scenarios that he was. So I want to look over each individual game, each instance of him countering me, and we'll have a discussion about it. But I just want to say, on average, overall, he did really, really well. He was very fun to chase the Spirit. Lasting more than 30 seconds, I think, is just impressive as hell. Even if you use, half the pallets on the map, it's still impressive. So let's go over each individual game and how he did, and whether or not I think that he did were actually counters. Alrighty, let's start off with the very first game that we had. I was going against a competitive player, so I wanted to take these ones a bit more seriously. I didn't record my commentary as I was actually playing. I wanted to do it afterwards so I could just think about everything and hear everything while the game was actually going. But yeah, let's start with this one. So like I said, the rules for this one were a bit different. He got to choose which side of the shack that he wants to start on, whether it be the pallet or doorway. Basically, whatever side gives him the map. So at the end of the day, a lot of these chases begin with an immediately dropped free God pallet, which gives him, a pretty sizable head start for free at the beginning of every chase. So that is something to keep in mind, that a lot of this is me just having to break this God pallet no matter what. And that's how basically every single chase in this entire series goes. So he drops that first pallet. Obviously, you have to kick it, get some distance here. And I quickly noticed that this is going to be kind of the play style. Just get to a pallet and immediately drop it every time that you get to a pallet. And it does work. It does delay me, but we'll go over, obviously, the ramifications of doing that later. Here, I forgot that this was a long wall, so that was just stupid of me to phase here. I should have just phased around. Really dumb of me. But, small mistake. Now, here he gets to a God window because of the new breakable walls that have made Coal Tower even more fun. This is a God window that I just simply have to vault. God windows and God pallets are probably one of the few things that I will 100% say do counter a spirit because you simply have to kick them. That's why in a map like the game, where it's just all basically God pallets, you can destroy even an amazing spirit there because there's nothing to it. You just vault it and the spirit has to vault the window too, or they have to break the pallet. There's not really any choice that I have in the matter. So this side of Coal Tower, pretty strong against me. It drops his pallet here early, which is the correct choice. Even if he wasn't being not stingy, that was definitely the correct choice there. So I know he can't make it all the way back around again, so he knows he's going to get hit here, and it seems like he's doing something stupid by running to a corner, but he's actually just wasting as much of my time as possible, which is, pretty smart. It bought him another, 4 or 5 seconds, which is just genuinely a good idea. At this point, I just say, fuck it, I have to break this stupid wall, because it's giving him a God window, and not even Spirit can do anything about that. So we have to lose a lot of our power to actually catch up, and I try to go for a swing here, and he gets a really, really nice stun on me, and I want to go over this part here. So first off, we must have an amazing connection here because I am done with my swinging animation before he's even begun the pallet drop and I don't get a hit, which is, I'm sure you can tell in a normal match of DBD without really good ping, that never happens. This is always a hit. But I actually don't hit him here, which is really, really cool. It's actually awesome to see the game working properly. So he gets a really, really well-timed stun on me there. And this is, I think, where add-ons come into play. Because if I had anything past the yellow add-on here, that's a guaranteed hit because I would be, that millisecond closer and that's all I would need. So that's an example. If you use anything past yellow add-ons, I would have gotten a hit there and the chase would have been over. However, I think the reason I was limited to yellow add-ons is because I think that's what the competitive scene allows for Spirit. So in the context of this test that he wanted to do, it makes sense. So I will just go ahead and say that was a really well-timed stun. And he gets away by the skin of his teeth there and gets some... a couple of extra seconds in a chase, which is really good for him. Drops his pallet as well. Basically, just drop every pallet as soon as you get to it is the standard playstyle. And at this point, he has to run back to a TL wall now, so he will eventually die. Something interesting happened here that gives him an extra 10 seconds of lifespan, too. So I was trying to find out where he was going, and, there were no scratches here. There's a couple right here, but there are no scratches here, and there's more scratches on this side. So scratches are telling me that he's, right here, right? And, that's fine and all. And, there's still no scratches here, still nothing. But for some reason, as soon as I come out of phase, scratches just appear fucking everywhere. I don't know what happened with the rendering of the scratches here, but you can tell within 1 frame of difference, there are no scratches on the ground, and then there's scratches everywhere. And he's over here. So I don't know what the hell happened there, but that's just scratches being weird, I guess. That does give him an extra 10 seconds of life, where I'll have to use my power. But, this is where the chase ends because, there's nothing he can do here. He did extremely well. This chase lasted 1 minute and 30 seconds, which is, I think, the best chase he had. So he started off really, really, really strong. All right, starting with chase number 2. Again, immediately drops the God pallet, get as much distance as possible. I'm not sure what exhaustion perk he brought here, but he gets a shit ton of distance. This part coming up is very interesting. I really want to analyze what the hell happened here. So he gets to a pallet here. Drops it immediately as usual. And now, okay, we're in this scenario. This is one of the few examples. This is sort of that laboratory testing where I've said before, you can actually tell when the spirit begins phasing. And I think she's able to accurately tell when I do that because she's right next to me. There's nothing else going on. She can just study me. There's no danger whatsoever. So in this scenario, you can actually tell when the spirit begins phasing. My argument is usually I don't care because I can still you can't see where I go after that. But I think she can tell when I'm phasing here, which is cool. Now, I begin phasing once my power gets back, and then it's interesting she already started running right there as soon as I twitched. Then I phase 2 inches to the left. I basically go nowhere. And it's curious how she reacts to this, because I'm right here. What would the correct decision for her to do right now? The correct decision here would be basically to rotate on this side, right? Vaulting the pallet would be a terrible idea because I'm right here. I could just M1 her. Going this side would not be a good idea because she can see I'm beginning to go this side. So the correct optimal play here would be go, on this side of the loop around that side because there's nothing I'd be able to do about that. Interesting. Within a half a second, you can see the snap of the animation begin right here. She's already vaulting the pallet. Now, she said that this is, I keep saying she, like she's the character. Hiron said that that this is probably one of the examples of counterplay. And I don't know that I'm so convinced that it is. And I want to go over exactly the scenario here. So it's interesting. I go right here, half a second later, I can't even capture the frame where it happens. Basically, the second I get out of... It's in between this frame and the last one, she begins the vault. Now, if I just stood still right here and then just went back, I would get a hit. Unfortunately, I'm fucking stupid and just kept going around, which maybe she accounted for. So I'm not going to say that this is not a counter. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he expected exactly that to happen. But the amount of time between me coming out of phase and him vaulting, like, I still say vaulting here is a terrible idea. Like, that's still like a free hit. So I guess he was just assuming I would keep going that side because the vault came out really fast. But just for the hell of it, I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he had a good play there. Here, I'm a fucking idiot. This was so stupid. And I give him the I'm a fucking idiot dance, and I'll explain why I'm an idiot here. This was me playing extremely badly. So all I had to do in this scenario, right here, so he's completely fucked in this scenario. I don't know why I decided to phase. This was an example of a spirit error. All I had to do was turn to the left and kick the pallet. He's right here. What's he going to do? He's going to run back to the shack where there's no pallet anymore, and the window's on the other side, so he gets hit. Or he has to run behind me, and he's still going to get hit. All I had to do was kick this pallet, phase, and hit him. It would have been free, but I'm a fucking moron, and just for some reason tried to go around it and just give him a free vault. So that's my I'm stupid dance. I realized I could have hit him there. I just give him so much distance. That was a really, really bad play on my end. Now here he tries the exact same thing that he did with the last pallet. Drops it, but this time he just guesses wrong, and I just get hit. So it's so hard for me to see these things as counterplay because, I don't know, it just really just seems like a lot of guessing a lot of the time. And I don't know, like, it seems like the whole play style is just drop pallets as quickly as possible to negate the chance for that to even happen, which I believe is what he actually said in Discord. And that I agree with, but a lot of the time at these pallets, I still don't really feel like I'm getting countered because it seems to be that exact 50-50 thing where it's, people are just guessing. Here, again, monumental fuck up. I mean, she just began a medium vault here. This is a free hit. I could probably grab her. This is still a hit. This is still a hit. But my brain is just not working today. I'm not even streaming today because I feel like shit. I slept like 3 hours. So I'll just attribute that to me being a fucking moron and not getting a free grab here. But as far as, anything goes, the chase ended right here. She should be dead here. But I'm not going to pretend that people don't make mistakes, so I will keep playing this. But the chase should have been over there if I was not a moron. The chase goes on for about 20 more seconds here, and right here. So she runs here, and she does a good play where she goes here and then vaults back, so I don't get the hit. But the thing is, though, here's another example where I don't know that this is actually her counterplaying because watch what she does. I keep saying it's a he, but I'm just referring to this arena itself, so we'll just do that. So she vaults, and then doesn't actually acknowledge which side I'm on, and then just vaults back into me, and then just vaults again. So this doesn't seem like a calm, collect counterplay that he did. It just seems like he happened to be on the right side, and then just was just mashing sparrows. So it's like, oh, fuck. Like, it doesn't seem like that was an intentional counterplay. It just seemed like he sort of happened to be on the right side, and then just started panicking. So, I'm stubborn. I'm not super convinced yet. I'd say the first play at the pallet was the one I would give him the most credit for, but all the other plays here, I was not really super convinced. All right, here is the next one. Now, starting not on the side of the pallet, however, he brought Sprint Burst this time to negate that whole thing. So he still got to Sprint Burst, still gained a huge amount of distance here, and the chase ends up going to right here. It's a very good fast vault angle on here. I don't forget what happens in this match. I know he's going to drop this pallet immediately because that's tends to be just how he's playing. Oh yeah, and then we get to an unsafe pallet right here, and I can hear him. So I can hear him to my left, and I can see that grass moving to the right. I know he will not be able to get to the pallet in time, so I just swing through it. Curiously, he doesn't drop that pallet, which is dropping every other pallet. I'm not like making fun of him. Like dropping the pallets early is working for him, so that's actually like the correct thing to do. But curiously, he doesn't drop that one. Maybe it would have made him lose more distance. I'm not sure. At this point, he's in a lot of trouble because he's injured at an unsafe pallet. At this point, I can hear him on the left side, and I figure I can just probably lunge around it before he can even vault back, so. I heard him like a bit more to the left, and then he goes down there, so. Definitely a lot quicker on that one. All right, next one. I believe he brought Lithe this time. So what he does here, he immediately drops the pallet, not really as an attempt to confuse me. Like, I wasn't even close enough to begin to try that. He just uses that as a launching pad for Lyth, which gives him a shit ton of distance. So certainly good for Lyth there. Immediately drops that pallet as well. Now, I figure at this point, he knows that I can beat him around that loop. So the only option he really has is to go for the window. So I immediately cancel, and he's trying to go for the window, which gets me a hit on him there. And at this point, he's injured, so that's a rough start. I think I make a huge mistake here, though, if I remember this one correctly. Oh, yeah. I want to go over what happened here. So he drops the pallet, sits on the other side, right? Drops the pallet. He gets the Iron Will bug here. I actually, I put this shit into audio editors. I cranked up the DBD to, like, 30 dB. He literally just got the Iron Will bug here. He made no sound whatsoever. I'm assuming he dropped the pallet on this side and then crouched right here. Now, crouching does reduce your volume by about 50%. It does make you significantly harder to hear, and that's very true. It's kind of like going in a locker. You make very small amounts of sound, but you do make sound. However, I went into an audio editor, and he literally made 0 sound effects whatsoever. If he made even the slightest 1 decibel whimper, I would be able to tell that he was on my side. It would have been a free hit, but it caused me to hesitate a bit because the sounds were just straight up broken, and we'll let you even hear it. I'll crank up volume as much as humanly possible. The only thing you hear is the grunt of her beginning the vault. Right there. That's the only thing you hear. So I hit her, she's injured, and you don't hear anything. So for some reason, the only thing you hear is the sound of her vaulting. As much as I would not like to blame the game, that's kind of the game's fault there. She just actually emitted no sound effects without Iron Will. So that kind of sucked, but it's obviously not the player's fault. They can't control when that shit happens. I have no doubt that they were crouching, but you still make some sound while crouching. And if I cranked up the volume that much and there was still absolutely nothing, that was just the game literally being bugged at that point. So that does buy her a lot more time there, unfortunately, and because I can't hear her run away, she gets a lot of distance over here, where I will have to break this pallet as well. Basically, that bug or whatever gives her another 25, 30 seconds of chase time, which sucks. Here I can tell she's going around the other side and runs back into me. And then I just let go there, so she goes down. So, all right. Next up, I forget which is Oxen Purse she has this time. I think it's Dead Hard this time. I'm actually not sure. Drops pallet on the reverse side. I thought I could get that, so that was really well played by her. Immediately vaulting it was very smart. And she gets a lot of distance from that. Probably if I would have lunged earlier, I could have hit that, but that's still completely my fault there. She played very well there. Got a hit here, unfortunately for her. She drops the pallet. Now she's injured very early, which is really unfortunate. Here I do some fake facing shit. I'm going to put my red light over there to confuse her a bit. Apparently it does because she just fucking vaults into me. That's probably the biggest mistake that Hiron made the entire time. But it happens. Like I said, we all make mistakes, and to expect no one to make mistakes is ridiculous. So that one did not go too well. So overall thoughts on this. First up, Hiron was great. They played very, very well. They were one of the trickiest people to down with Spirit that I've ever played. So absolutely props to him. Now, let's go over the circumstances on what happened in the long chases. The chases that lasted over a minute, minute and a half. Those are long, long chases. However, in these chases, an exorbitant amount of resources of the map were used up. On average, I think in the first chase where it was about a minute and 30, he dropped a pallet every 12.8 seconds on average, which is dropping pallets at an alarming rate. Now, the thing is, in actual tournaments, this might actually work because if you use all the resources of the map in 2 or 3 minutes, it might not matter because the game might last 4 minutes. So at that point, it doesn't really matter. But can you say that's actually you counterplaying the Spirit at that point? Running to a God window or a God pallet and pressing spacebar, is that really you counterplaying a Spirit? I think that's really just you taking advantage of the fact that this game is fucking stupid at the highest level and it definitely favors survivors unless you're like Nurse. That's just something everybody knows. And, in 99.9999999% of games that are not tournaments, this doesn't work at all. There was still no counterplay. And I even talked to Hiron about that, and they said, yeah, outside of a competitive standpoint, this does not work at all. So basically the only way you can counter Spirit is by using all the resources of the map that she can't do anything about before, and then have the game end before that is relevant. And again, while that may be true in some tournament games, that's why Spirit's not 4K'ing every game. If you do that in a normal match of DBD, what's going to happen is, you might run the Spirit for a full minute, and you're going to pat yourself on the back, look how good I did against the Spirit. Not realizing you used 8 pallets. Then your teammates are completely fucked. They're going to die in 10 seconds because there's nothing left on the map. and then you're going to pat yourself on the back and say, wow, look how good I am at Spirit. Look how bad my teammates are. You didn't do good against Spirit. You just fucking killed your entire team. And that's, I think, my main takeaway from a lot of this. In a competitive setting, how Hirona played actually can be effective because you can trust your, extremely coordinated, experienced team to do everything and get out in 4 minutes, which can happen in solo queue. It can happen, but if you think that's the majority or even like 90, past like 1% of the time, it just really does not happen very often. You have to get so unlucky with map spawns and RNG for that to actually happen. Whereas in competitive, it's actually it's a fairly common occurrence. So basically what I'm getting at is for the majority of games that you and I play, and I would say the majority of games, so vast a majority that it's literally 99.99% of matches, Spirit doesn't really have anything you can do against it. The one thing you can do, which Hirona kind of showed in these matches, is dropping pallets immediately and not giving the Spirit any chance to really do anything about it. If you do that in a normal game, you will still lose because you will just fuck your team over completely. Additionally, you're not really like counterplaying, you're just using how safe maps are at the start of the match. There's nothing anyone can do about that stuff other than Nurse. She's the only one who can actually just ignore all of this shit. And that's why Nurse is the best killer. But, in a standard match, this does not really work. But again, in a competitive setting, if you do just spam drop every single pallet, it can buy you enough time. So, overall takeaway from this, I'm still not really convinced of anything. And it sounds like me and Hiron don't really actually disagree. Because, I don't think I'm actually talking about competitive matches because I never talk about that stuff because to me, that's not the matches that matter. Like I said, they're 0.001% of the matches that happen in this game. It's just, that's not the basis of, how you measure something like that. If the only way you can counter Spirit is by using, a pallet every 10 seconds and hoping your team does the gens really, really, really fast, I don't think that's counterplay. I think that's just you are abusing the fact that this game is very survivor-sided at the highest level and some maps just have a ridiculous amount of shit to work with. So at the end of the day, I will say I'm not entirely convinced, even though there were a couple of things he did at pallets that were really impressive. Him knowing when I began facing was really awesome to see in an actual live game, and I have immense respect for him for like actually doing that. It's just a lot of the things that happened, I didn't really feel super convinced were reliable counterplay because a lot of the times when he would do the counterplay, it wouldn't work 10 seconds later, or he would panic and be on the wrong side and just start vaulting. Like there were a lot of things that did not give me the sense that he was confident about the plays that he was doing. So it does still seem like a grab bag of shit. But I really have to say that this guy played very well in terms of, actually chasing and downing him. It took the longest out of probably anyone I've ever gone against. So average chase time of 58 seconds across all the matches. Average pallet drop was, I think, on all of them, 9 pallets on average. So that was really well played by Hirona. And there was one thing that I think I did learn from him. In terms of determining, I asked how he guessed sometimes which side of the pallet I was on. And they were mostly just guesses, but he said he made educated guesses based on the amount of time it would take me to get around the loop. He assumed I would go around the short side of the loop and then ran on the opposite side, and that worked, I think, one time. So that was an example of actually taking, information and doing something with it and making a good play off it. That was really cool to see. Other than that, though, I'm not super convinced, despite him doing an incredible job. Curious what you guys actually think, though, because I think there's certainly room for debate about this stuff. But it was really fun playing against them. Had a great time. I hope you had a good time, too. And that is it, guys. Thanks for watching.